In this video, we are going to be doing a full front of chest and stomach on our lovely model here. So we are going to go ahead and prep him for that. We're going to start by using our citrus mint cleansing water. A little cold. We're really going to work this all over where we're going to be sugaring today. Trying to go against that growth is ideal. Trying to get those hairs to stand up as much as possible. Then we're going to take a dry one and then just dry off any additional cleanser that was left on the skin. We're then going to go in with our Pixie Protection Powder. We're just going to kind of rub that in. When you're doing chest and stomach areas, typically they have lots of hair patterns, and it all kind of intertwines together. It's important to just try your best to go opposite that direction of hair growth, trying not to mold too much into hair, and just really doing your best to make it as comfortable as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my paste. I think I'm going to use some Pro today, so that's what we're going to try. Can I have you grab your stomach and pull it up towards you? Perfect.
Do you want to talk about how much paste
you want to? Yeah. So I grabbed a pretty large amount of my Pro paste, and I'm also having him hold his stomach up taut just to help with my flicks. Since his hair is longer, I don't want to be flopping into other hair. So I'm going to start with Pro today. It's at a pretty good consistency. He might get a little hot during the service too, so we'll see if we need to make any adjustments. So I'm going to start by just placing in the center of his stomach and molding out towards my edge where there's no hair. And I'm just trying to go as slow as I can so he's not feeling a lot of tugging. And I'm going to try to do a rather large spread just to hopefully try to get this done as quickly as possible for him. So just always molding where there's no hair is the ideal scenario. Trying to go as slow as possible so he's not feeling unnecessary tugging. And just going over those areas about 3 or so times. And then since he's holding tight, that's going to help when I drop down to flick. And then comfort press as you go. And a really big snap at the end because I have a lot of sugar, so it's really heavy, as well as we don't want to flop it and then flop it into more hair and have issues with that. So that was our first pass, and it got 95% of them, but we are going to go in one more time just to kind of clean up that area before moving on to our next. And I'm going to go over it one more time than I did on the last pass here, just to really ensure that those hairs are going to come out. And then comfort press. So that looks really good on this side. It looks like there's just one hair here that I want to go ahead and get, and then one hair here. And then we can go ahead and move on up a little higher. So I'm gonna go ahead and have you shift your hand higher. He knows the drill, he knows what's going on. So we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing. We're gonna place our ball kind of more towards the center here and work our way out. How's my speed? Are you feeling any tension or pulling?
No, you're fine.
Awesome. It's always good to check in with your client when their hair is longer if you're not going to trim it. Kind of check in with them, make sure that they're not feeling excessive tugging, excessive pulling. That's what we don't want. That's how someone has a bad sugaring experience. So once you kind of do that first pass, you can go a little bit faster, but you really want to make sure on that first pass you go very slow as you're gathering those hairs, just so he's not feeling that tension and pulling. And I'm doing about 4 passes, kind of feels right on him, just so hopefully I don't have to go over it again. And then always comfort. Same thing, there was just a few hairs left behind. I can totally just finger tweeze those instead of having to go over that entire area again. It'll save me time instead of having to do a full mold. So we're gonna go ahead and just keep working up. He's just gonna keep moving his hand, and we're just gonna keep placing it in the center and working our way out. And then my hand is holding opposite direction, so there's just a nice flat surface. The more taut you have the skin, the less pulling people feel. So not only is it beneficial when you're going to execute your flick, but it's also helpful because it just doesn't pull as much because those hairs are already being taut. Change my support hand to below. Really intentional with that second flick, just so that way there's not any drag there. You really want to commit. And then again, I'm just going to clean up a few hairs as I go, just because I have to. Okay, same thing, just keep moving up. Always ending outside of hair, slow on that first mold. And you can even do a wider spread if you wanted to, so I can go ahead, since I have so much sugar, I can go ahead and do that part as well. Farthest edge, and then one more big one. And then I'm going to kind of go over that area one more time just because there's a few more hairs than just finger flicking. And then it'll pick up anything else outside and up here as well. My ball is starting to kind of have a consistency change just because of all of the hair that it's collecting. It's still absolutely workable. You'll just notice that it's a little bit stiffer, but the sugar itself is still pliable, so still totally fine to use. Then we're just going to work our way up closer to his chest. His hair is sparser right here, but we're going to just cover that area first. So again, just placing it in the center and then working our way over. Going nice and slow. Trying not to pull too many hairs in that he'll feel. Nice and slow. because if you go fast, those hairs close to his nipple, you're gonna feel pulling. So you just wanna go really slow right there. That way he doesn't feel that tugging. So extra snail speed right there, just to ensure max comfort before dragging it back through. Then I'm gonna come right here and clean up this area, and then we'll move on to his chest. Just because your ball looks like a hot mess doesn't mean that it's not workable. So definitely try to get in the habit of using it until it truly becomes unworkable, because you don't want to waste sugar and constantly be like, oh, I need a new ball. This is still totally workable. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on to this side of his chest so he can just relax. He doesn't need to help me anymore. We're gonna go ahead and start by doing just this outside part by his nipple there. The hairs are growing down. I have no more hair here, so I can go ahead and just work my way up. Something that I wanna mention is, since my ball is getting harder to work with and there's a lot of it, I'm actually gonna go ahead and leave some just on an area where there's no hair anymore. That way I can more effectively lay that sugar and get a little bit more of kind of a thin spread. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to the outside of his nipple here and go up. Going really slow on that detachment, just since those hairs are longer. And then just a finger flick to get those few on that outside. And then I will pick up the rest of my sugar and resume using the bigger part of my ball. I just opted for a smaller section, less paste. Okay, so then I'm gonna go ahead and just go over my entire ball here and get it back. So now what I can do is go ahead and just place down here and kind of come up over that entire area. And I'm kind of just going right around his nipple. You can go over it. I just feel like that's a little unnecessary little sting moment, so might as well avoid it and just kind of go more around it. And always kind of ending outside where there is no hair is just going to be a lot easier for your flicks. And then extra comfort press, because that was a big one. And then we can clean up around his nipple there.
You can block his view, it's okay.
And again, just working our way up and in. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull opposite of where I'm going, because now I'm getting up more towards his collarbone. And you need to go a little slower just because my sugar is going to start to pull since it is getting so thick. Since he does have so much hair, for comfort of the client, I will probably switch balls when I work on that second half, just so that way it is nice and smooth sailing for him. Going really slow too when I come back, just since there's so much hair in my ball, I don't want him to feel that tug when I try to come back over it. I'm going to go ahead and flick on 2 passes rather than 3. And really commit to those flicks. There's a lot of hair there. If you don't commit, it's not coming off, and that's not going to feel good. I'm going to go ahead and clean up just these few hairs on this side, and then we're going to grab our ball, a new one, and switch to the other side. Okay, so we're going to switch. So I switched my ball to a new one. You can go ahead and pull tight for me. And then we're just going to do the same thing on the other side. And I'm also just kind of overlapping. That way if I missed anything on the other side, it gets all gone on this one pass. Still trying to go nice and slow, nice and controlled, so he doesn't feel any additional tugging. And again, just cleaning up as I go those few little hairs that I see. Going really slow when I incorporate new hairs, and then I can go a little faster. You just don't want to rip through those hairs when you're gathering them. Moving up a little higher. once you get one side done, it's a lot easier to then power on and do the second side, just because there's less hair to work with. You can get your directions a little better. Kind of like a big finger tweeze here. Rather than pulling one finger out, I'm just kind of quickly going over it. Go ahead and pull your hand higher, please. Same thing here. Going really slow. If you feel those hairs kind of, or see those hairs kind of coming in like that, just kind of slow your roll a little bit, just so he doesn't feel that tugging. Trying to just thin out my paste a little bit, spread it evenly. Quick pulls, nice and fast, and then same thing, kind of like a big finger tweeze. I'm just kind of touching down with those two fingers, even though I have most of the mass. You can go ahead and relax. So now we just have the rest of his chest. So same thing, we're just gonna kind of come up here. I'm actually, instead of starting on the outside on this one, I'm gonna go ahead and just place the mass of my ball on this big section here. And that way we can end out of hair on this other end. And again, my ball is now starting to get a little bit firmer just because I do have all of that hair from his abdomen. So meaning that I just need to go a little slower when I mold and making sure that my flicks are very intentional. Finger tweezing as I go. So now these hairs here are kind of growing more down this way. So now I'm going to kind of switch my angle a little bit to above him. So then I can finish and kind of end hair at the top, but I have a clean place to kind of set my sugar ball right around that outside of his nipple and then working my way up. And then going over these guys one more time here. And you guys can even see how much hair is in my ball. It's still workable. When you guys are picking up stick, a good trick if it's not coming off by just a quick tap, make sure you're not just constantly tapping someone. That's not fun. Hold 1, 2, and then release. That's a good little trick so you're not just like tapping someone. Hold 1, 2, and then do it, just so that way that sugar can stick to your finger. Those hairs are still growing down, so we're just gonna go right over it. Going nice and slow, just because if I go fast, it's gonna start pulling. There's a lot of hair in the ball right now, so we just wanna go nice and slow. I'm also using a little bit more pressure too, not a lot, but just a little bit more pressure with my fingers through these molds, just since there is so much hair in the ball, making sure that I'm really able to make contact with those new hairs. Coming up over this pass one more time. And again, pushing just a little bit firmer just to ensure that my sugar is doing the job, since there is all that, you can literally see like the layer of hair on top. Still workable, not losing my glove, nothing crazy. You just have to be mindful, making sure that that sugar is still doing what it needs to do. And again, 1, 2, and kind of roll it off as opposed to just tapping them endlessly. So these hairs though start to actually grow up. You can see that they actually are standing up this way. So now we're gonna switch directions again just a little bit, and we're actually gonna come where there's no hair on the top of his shoulder here and work our way back down. And I can kind of hold his chest tight the opposite direction. Really slow on that detachment. You can see those little 2 hairs that kind of pulled in. So you just want to be really careful. Same thing when we work our way in, starting at the top, working our way down because those hairs are now growing up. I'm just trying to be as slow and controlled as possible so that ball of goo doesn't pull things in that shouldn't be in there. Notice when I flicked that last flick, I did it slightly this way. We don't want to throat punch anyone. He's already going through enough today. So making sure that you're really committing to your flick, but paying attention to the direction that you are punching that flick. And again, our ball is getting difficult to work with, but it is not unworkable. I would suggest trying to do this service with those two balls, just like I'm doing eventually when you get good at it, just to eliminate having to use a bunch of gloves and a bunch of balls of sugar. It is still totally doable. Keeping that comfort press. And I can go in and finger tweeze just those few. I'm using 2 fingers to cover a wider area. Your sugar goes from a really pretty amber color to a brown green looking ball of goo with all the hair that's in there, but it is still functional, believe it or not. And it looks like we just have one more final pass. He has some pinpoint bleeds. That is super common with really thick rooted hairs. It is totally normal and nothing to worry about. It just means that follicle was very thick. And then again, just a couple little tweezes with my finger, and then we're done. And there you have it. So now we're going to go ahead and do aftercare. So for post-care, I'm going to go in with our botanical water. So we're going to go ahead and apply that. It's going to be a little cold, but it's going to feel really nice, especially after all of that hard work, all of that hair removal. It will also help get rid of any like little bit of stickiness since it is water soluble. So we're just kind of getting rid of any little sticky bits just so he's not all sticky when he goes to put his shirt on. Then we're going to go in with our soothing serum, which is this guy right here. So we're going to take a pump of that and apply that all over. So aftercare, since we did just remove a ton of hair, I would advise my client to try to not do anything too crazy over the next like 24 to 48 hours. So trying to avoid like bodies of water, hot tubs, super hot baths and showers, just because we kind of have to think of this mass of an extraction is almost like an open wound. So we just really want to be aware of that and kind of allow that follicle time to kind of close and heal post-treatment. So I would advise him to not do anything too crazy. Don't go to hot yoga right after. Just try to be as calm and cool as possible. We're also going to go in with our Blue Tansy Balm as well to help with any of that post-redness. A little goes a long way. To help eliminate any future like ingrowns or irritation if he keeps up with hair removal, I would advise him to keep the area exfoliated and hydrated, especially moving into winter months. It's really important to keep that skin nice and hydrated. For exfoliation though, I would advise him to wait a couple days before using any kind of a physical scrub just to eliminate any irritation. So when you're doing a lower back area, these hairs typically grow down. I want to just take this entire patch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mold in that direction, going up against that hair growth. And then I'm gonna do kind of more of like a diagonal pass to really get a good flick. Because if I try to flick down towards his pants, I'm probably gonna get stuck like I just did. So we're gonna try to kind of offset that by a diagonal one. So we're gonna go ahead and mold kind of in that like diagonal upwards direction. We've already prepped him. He is ready to rock. So we're just gonna try to cover as much of this area as we can. Yes, I'm using Pro Paste on this area. Seemed to work really well for other areas on him, so we're going with Pro. And for how much sugar I grabbed, we're probably going to do it in 2 passes just to avoid any pulling. Then we just have this last little section here, and again we can kind of just come at that diagonal, mostly in that upwards direction because the hair is growing down. And then one last little patch here. And nice and clean. So now we're going to just put on some post care.